Hello Internet! In this video we are going to be working on a project I'm calling Unity Live. So how this is going to work is Beam has recently released their Interactive 2.0 library. And so what this is it's a series of controls that you can overlay on a stream. And they actually have an API, so you can actually configure those via an API. And then users in real time can interact with your stream and send information back to you. So they've got buttons and joysticks. And so what I'm thinking we can do is we can actually integrate that into Unity. They already have a Unity API, but it's just exposing it so you can add it to your Unity games. I'm thinking, let's actually add it to Unity. So you can say effectively create a real-time stream poll. So let's say I have a player that has a movement speed, but I don't know what that movement speed is. And I don't know if I want the player to move fast or slow or have like a high jump or something. I can create a poll, put that out to the stream votes, and then after like 5 seconds, I get a response. And then it just automatically updates that value for me. So I give it like 3 values that I would be okay with. And then based on the stream input, we choose one of those and move forward. And then obviously you can go back and edit it if you want, but it's just a way to kind of get that feedback, and you don't have to monitor it, which is one of the cool things. I don't know how this is going to go. I haven't looked at their API at all. I know that you can configure layouts, you can send things up there, you can create a button, and you can create a controller. I don't know if we're going to be able to do what we're going to try to do, but we're going to try it anyway. So I've gotten started a little bit, and we probably won't get through everything today. But what I have right now is I have the Beam library, which is just on the asset store. You can just go and pull that down right now. If you just search for Beam, I'm sure it'll come up. And then I've also pulled in what I'm calling the user value poll window, which looks like this. And this is actually taken directly from Unity's editor window documentation. They have a sample script there, and this is that. The only difference is this name. Everything else is the same. So I'll put a link to that in the description so you guys can go check it out. But we are going to be working with this. The idea here is that we can change this. So based on your selection, we want to reflect over that class. I'll get to what that means in a second. We're going to reflect over whatever you have connected. We're going to find all of the mono behaviors. You're going to pick one of those, and then you're going to pick a field in there. And then given a property, you can add as many options as you want. We'll probably limit it to like 4. And then that should be good. So what I want to get done in this video is actually being able to select an object and then choose both the mono behavior you want to set the value for and figure out what that value should be. I think we can do that. I don't think it's going to be hard. But I have no idea. I haven't worked with editor windows in a long time, and I have never done reflection in Unity before. So we're going to find out. So before I get started, we should cover reflection, I guess. So what reflection is think of it like in Java or C# or anything like that. It's an interpreted language. There is a CLR in .NET, or there is the Java JVM. Those are interpreting your .NET code or your Java bytecode, and they're actually figuring out what it is. And before that, you already have a definition of your object. So you know what's in your object, you know what properties are there, you know what functions are there, and things like that. And what you may not know is you can actually edit those in real time. So if you want to create a class at runtime, you can do that. I don't recommend it because that dynamic programming is weird, but there's nothing stopping you from spinning up brand new classes, creating them, and doing all sorts of other things. You can actually do a lot of things with reflection. You can access private variables, you can do really bad stuff with it, but you can do really cool stuff too. So what we're going to use it for is actually finding all of the public fields inside of mono behaviors. So that we'll kind of talk a little bit more about it as we get to it. But for now, let's actually just figure out how to create this window. So let's call it our user value poll. So this is just going to be a window. You're going to get that and figure it out. So there's just a window here. We're creating that. I'm not going to do anything special with naming it or anything like that. At this point, I don't care. It can really be named anything, and it just doesn't. At this point, it doesn't matter. So what we want is we're going to have a selected object, which this is just going to display what is selected. And I don't care about this. So I'm just going to, this is just a GUI layout. So it's all going to be stacked automatically for me. So I should be able to just do .text. Let's actually just do another label. And I'm going to do selected or selection dot active game object dot name. And so this is going to actually get the selected object in the Unity editor if one exists. If it doesn't, it's going to throw a whole bunch of errors. But so we have something selected. Yeah. So you can see we have main camera selected. If I switch to directional light, it will switch. It's a little bit funky because the editor doesn't update every frame. So you actually have to focus the window for it to receive that update, which is a bit weird, but we can work with that. This isn't super important. All we're doing here is emphasizing that we can actually get the selected object. Everything else in here can kind of go away. I don't need any of that. So what we're going to do is do if a selection dot selected game object. What the heck? Actually, that could be interesting. Can we do a selection changed? And that's an action, so I should be able to tie something to this. I haven't used this selection thing in a long time either, so we're gonna figure out what this can do. But I think, since this is an action, I should, which an action in, yeah, it's just a delegate, so I should be able to attach things to it. So what I'm thinking is if we do, after we initialize our window here, we can do a selection dot selection changed, and we're going to just add on a new selection changed method. So this gets called every single time the selected object changes. And so if our selection dot active game object is equal to true, or not, that is not false or not null, then we have a new game object selected and we need to update all of our information. Otherwise, we need to just set this equal to nothing. We don't need to do anything yet. So this is it's gonna be a bit weird, I'm thinking. There's a GUI dot force update or something. I don't know how to do this. Dot update. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I was trying to see if there was a way to actually force the update to happen. I don't know. But it should be good. Cool. So if our active object is not there, we're going to just cache all this information. So we just process it once. It doesn't make sense to do it all the time. Does it? So if we cache this doesn't work if we add new components to it, which may not be the best. What else can we get from here? Selection.active context, active objects. Sure, we're gonna pretend like this is fine. So what we need to do is build. What do we need to do? Build components. Yeah. build the components list, we'll call it. And so what this is going to do is it's going to take the selected object. We know it's not null. So I can actually pass it in here. That might be better. So selection.active game object. And we're just going to take a game object as the argument here. And we'll just call it the game object. Sure. So what this is doing is it's going to actually build the list of all of the attached components, which should be easy to get. Get components, and that should be all I need to do, right? It's expecting a type argument. I don't want to give it a type argument. I just want all of them. Ooh, what the heck? Var result. Ooh, that's not how you type that. There we go. And it really doesn't like this. Okay then. My plan is slowly falling apart. But I'm sure it's gonna come together. We're gonna get this. So get component. I guess this should work. Get components. Mono behavior. So we're just gonna pull out all of the mono behaviors, because why not? It works. It's gross, but it works. And I think that should even get us things like the transform. Maybe we should use component. I don't know if this will work, but let's try it. So if I get all of the components attached to it, that should get us all the mono behaviors, because I believe mono behavior extends that. Let's check it. Behavior, which extends component. Good. So that should get us all of our mono behaviors, and it should get us like transforms and things like that. So theoretically, we could expose translations or positions of objects in the world. Anything we want. So mono behavior, I don't need that. That gets us all of our components. So I'm just going to save this. We're gonna probably need to clean this up before people start actually using it, but for now, it should be good. So enumerable of type component. So we're gonna grab all of our components, and then we're gonna take all of the public members from that and actually collect those. So this is gonna be a list of components. We may wanna make this a key value pair, but I'm not gonna do that yet. Components. There we go. And so we have all of that. Selection changed. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to do. Selection changed is our event that gets called. The issue here is the selection changed event isn't going to attach us to any game object. We don't have a record of that at all. So this could get weird. We may end up with more static things than we want. We'll keep them static for now, but I'm going to try to find a way to pull those out later, because I don't like it. Actually, can I do that? Selection changed equals window dot selection changed. Don't quote me on this. I'm totally making this up, and it's probably wrong. Nope, that totally works. Cool. Okay, so what I did there is I referenced the window when I was getting the method to call, and that actually gets us out of the global scope, and we're actually scoping it to an object. And so because of that, this new window is now tied to it instead of just a global scoped thing that was going to be storing it. which is good. So we got rid of that. So all of our static stuff goes away, and we are super happy. Awesome. So now let's just store out our components. Let's make that not static. There we go. Components equals our result. Cool. So now that we have all of that, if selection dot active game object is not null. So if we have something selected, we're going to do a bunch of stuff. This is going to list this label. And then I'm also going to do a GUI layout dot. And then there is some sort of picker. Selection grid, is that what I want? Maybe. It's been a while since I've actually touched this this used to be how you would do Unity's UI. So you would actually use this stuff in your game. There's a reason it's gone. But anyway, sure, let's do that. Private int selected component equals -1, I guess. And then when we build our components list, we'll say the selected component equals -1 immediately, just so that's reset. But we need to pass in the current selected index for this component, and then we need a list of strings. So I'm going to do it the gross way, so we can refactor this later, but all we need to do is select from our component the component dot get type dot get name, or dot toString. I think that should work. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the type name of each of these components. So we should be able to actually display those. What else do I need? Count? Why does it need a count? I'm feeling like the selection grid isn't what I want. But we'll carry on. If it's not, then oh well. GUI style and all of that, I can keep that empty. And this count is a function. And I have broken things. What did I do wrong? GUI content strings, GUI style dot none. It really doesn't like this. Okay, I'm getting the feeling this is wrong, so I'm just gonna do that for a bit. GUI layout dot something else. Selection grid, I don't think you're right. Flexible space, no. Repeat button, I don't think that's right either. I believe that repeat button is going to be a list of like buttons. Or it's just going to be a button that you toggle on and off. But then if the selection grid is correct, then how do I use that? Selection grid returns an int. It takes in the selected index, a list of texts, which is probably the issue. Because I did not give it that. I gave it an enumerable. So let's do a toArray on this. And suddenly it's happy. Awesome. Okay, selected component. And then all we have to do here is set this back. If you skip that, it won't save your selection, which matters. But now, if I have something selected, we'll get a null pointer. That worked well. Parameter name source. What? What? So if our selection is not null, if this is going to be gross, but if our components is null, so if it hasn't been initialized yet, which will happen when we actually open this and we already have something selected, we're going to want to say the selection changed, and that should trigger all of the events that we need. So this should recompile, and I should see something, but I don't. Oh, hold on, there it is. Awesome. So we have connected to a Unity directional light. So you can see we're connected to the directional light, and it's showing Unity engine.transform and Unity engine.light, which are the two types we have. We have a transform and a light attached to it. And for some reason, it doesn't seem like that's how you select things. I'm starting to think that that isn't the way to do that. Editor drop down button. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry, this is unfortunate. But hold on, there's got to be a better way. I always say that and then there isn't. But I'm expecting some way to select. GUI helper, no. This is getting dangerously close to needing to actually use documentation. Which, admittedly, probably is a good idea. I should probably use that more, and normally I would, but I think, I don't know. I feel like we're here, and it should just be there, but it's not. So we've got toggles, we've got spaces, that's not what we want. Heights, flexible spaces, some positioning things. Yeah, I don't see anything that we could use, unfortunately. So why don't I go find how we can do that? We've got bounds, drop down button. Again, like we've got these drop downs, but it returns a Boolean. What use is that to anybody? It isn't. So yeah, I'm gonna go figure out what we need. I'm sure it'll take like 15 seconds, which is probably less time than I wasted here, but that's the way it goes. So BRB. All right, so I found what we're looking for. It is under the editor GUI layout, and it's called a pop-up. Why is it called a pop-up? No, you don't know either? Okay, good. It's not just me. Yeah, so that's a thing. I don't know. That's weird, but it's there. And so this should compile, should do its thing. And now it is totally gone. Okay. You're being annoying, Unity. All right, cool. There we go. And now it's totally gone again. I'm not insane, am I? Pop-up, selected index, style. Is there another style I should be using? Style. Let's create a new one. Sure, why not? We don't actually, that's actually, hold on, let's not do that. That's a bad idea. GUI label dot label field. So I think we may need to change these. I think Unity's suggested implementation may not be what we want. The reason I'm thinking that is because these classes do stupid amounts of extra stuff. They store a ton of state about like where you are, and it's sort of like your terminal where you start typing, and it actually knows where your cursor is and then puts stuff there. And if you start moving that around, it gets a little bit weird. This kind of does the same thing, where it kind of expects things to be in a linear fashion, and it expects the state to be the same. So I'm assuming that if we pull those apart, we will get a drop down, which we don't get. Why not? What? I can't be missing something this obvious. It's gotta be something silly. Like, what? Maybe if I just get rid of that. There it was. Okay, so that GUI style.none, that's bad. Don't do that. Today I learned. So the cool thing is, that's wrong. I don't think our event is firing. Because these are all incorrect. These are all for the camera, but we have the directional light selected, which makes me think that this guy isn't doing what we thought. Debug.log selection changed. I'm curious what'll happen if I turn that on. So this will compile, and now I should be able to... Yeah, so we got one selection changed event, but that's it. Which is kind of weird now that I'm thinking about it. Selection.selection changed plus equals selection changed. I'm going to regret this, but just for testing, if I change the selection, it doesn't actually do anything, so never mind then. Okay. We're abandoning this and that. And then we are going to cache our selected object. Or not. Screw it. We've spent way too much time on this. So I'm going to just set the selection changed to fire every single frame. Which, don't do this. This is slow. Cache this and then just do a comparison. But by doing it this way, they both update. So what I'm thinking is currently we have like -1 as our selected index. Ooh, I forgot that was resetting. Blarg. So many things are not playing well right now. That thing about not caching it, we're going to cache it. Last selected. Sure. If last selected is not equal to selection dot active game object, then selection changed. Do your magic. And then it does all that, and we're good. Cool. So hopefully that fixes our issue, and I can select things, and I can't select things. Why can't I select things? This is annoying. It keeps updating the selection changed, so I'm wondering what it's selected. Because the active game object shouldn't be changing, but it appears to be. So something is causing this to get called, This wasn't really what I had intended to spend the time on in this video, but we need to fix this. So when this gets called, when this build components list gets called, which is going to happen when our selection changed event happens, which is only going to happen if our last selected is not, oh, duh. If you were watching that and you were like, fix that, you aren't actually assigning your value to anything, then good job. You did better than I did, because I am a derp. Yeah, okay. This is going poorly, but it's going to be fine. So we can now set these. And if I switch, it should null it out, which is important because now that it's going away, we don't like persist like weird state changes or anything crazy. So what you'll do is you'll select like transform, and then we need, go away. What are you doing? Cool. So now we need a private key value pair. So let's create a dictionary of our component and our thingamabopper. Let's actually create it of the type. Am I going to regret this? Maybe. So we're going to do type, and then we are going to do fields. So I should point out now, it's been a while since I've done reflection in general. So this may be wrong. I'm going to start with strings and we'll fix it later. Strings is not right. We want that to be a list of all of the private or public fields, all of the exposed fields for the components. So this will be our component fields. So build component fields list for our components. Sure. So that's going to do a whole bunch of fun stuff. But mainly, we are going to say we already have our components. So I want to go through and find one. So component, what are we doing? We need to go through all of them. So for each type in our enumerable set of components. So actually, let's call these what they are. They're a component. And let's get the component type, which will be component.getType. And so we're doing this, that's going to be the key in our dictionary. So types are going to be like component is a type, IEnumerable is a type, user value poll window is a type. So we're keying off of that. So we're saying this type has these things exposed on it. So for that type, let's create a list. So let's do a list. We're just going to use string again. It's wrong, but it'll work for now. So this is going to be our public fields. So we're going to do a new list of strings like so. And then I want to take all of the fields from this type. So reflection kind of starts at the type and you do get fields. So now we have a bunch of fields. That's not what I want. There we go. And then for each of those, I have the field info. We'll just call it the field. And I want to add it to our public fields. So if field.x, I don't actually know what I'm looking for, is public. If the field is public, then we want to do field.something. We can actually just set the public fields. This can be written as link. We don't need any of this. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. So we can actually do var public fields is going to be equal to our component type dot get fields, where the field is public. And that will get us a list of all of our public fields. So I can just do this, send this to an array, like so. And now we just have a full list of public fields. And this is going to be a field info array. So now that we know what type that is, we can just store this here as a field info array. And then I just need to add it to our dictionary. So before we do all of that, I'm going to take our component fields dot and actually initialize this. So component fields equals a new dictionary, like that. That creates the new dictionary, and then I can do other stuff. So before we actually insert this, it's possible for multiple components to be the same and on one thing. So you can actually add them multiple times. We're not going to actually, for now, we're not going to handle that case, but I'm going to handle it here and actually prevent you from doing anything silly there. So component type, so if our component fields, dot contains the key, so if it doesn't contain the key, then I want to add it. If it already is there, then I want to not do it. So we're going to make this a not, and then this is going to be our inserts. So component field dot add the type, and then we want to add the public fields. Yeah. And so effectively now we have a list. So I can take a type, go there, and it will be a cached list of all of the public fields for that type. So we can actually see, here are the things that you can actually edit. So if our selected component is greater than or equal to 0, then we've selected something. So something's been selected because -1 is our default. So if that happens, let's just list those public fields. So I'm going to take this and say select a field for poll. So this is going to allow you to select some sort of field. So we're going to have something here. I'm not going to set any value there yet. Editor GUI layout. There we go. Let's create another pop-up because that worked so well last time. We've got our selected component going in there. I'm going to just plug in 0. Actually, let's just do -1 for the default here. And then I want to look up the type that we have selected. So we've selected something with our selected component. So we have our component fields. I want to look up the components at index selected component and get the type of that, which I don't think we can do because that's an enumerable type. So it might be harder than anticipated. To array. Don't do this. This is really bad, but it will solve it, and we can go back and fix this later. For now, I'm not super concerned about the code quality. I just kind of want to prove this works. And so as part of that, we're not so much focused on writing the best code, the most maintainable stuff. It's much more important to just kind of get something that works, and then we can figure out, here's the parts that we actually need to make good, and here's the parts we don't care about. So this is going to be our to array. Once we have that array, we're going to select a component and get the type on it, and then we're going to look it up on this component field. That's going to get us a list of types. So I want to select on those. So we now have, we're selecting over our fields, our public fields. So field, and I want to do field dot, I think there's a name, maybe? Yeah, fields dot name. Cool. So this is going to get us our name, and we're going to to array that. So that is a gross statement. Not hiding anything. It's gross. Don't do that. But it gets the point across. It grabs our components, filters them down, finds the selected type of the component we want, and then gets all of the public fields for that type, and then creates a pop-up for them. So if I select like a transform, I would expect to see something. Argument can't be null. Well, blah-de-blah. Why are you null? Huh. Argument can't be null. What would cause this? I don't know. Let's see here. Is this the problem? Because that was working. So if I pull this out, does it still work? It should still work. So that should compile. Argument cannot be null. So no, the answer is no, it does not still work. So that doesn't appear to be the issue, at least not the entire issue. So what is going on? Active game objects is not equal to null. We've got our new dictionary right there. Build our components, set them there. Oops. Argument cannot be null. On line 72, we're getting a null pointer. Apparently in our select. Which that doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's coming in, I think we're getting something somewhere else because I didn't change that. Right? That has to be it. So get fields where is public is true. Sure, let's stick a breakpoint there and walk through the creation of this, because I think that's where our problem is. What? Blarg. Okay. Edit it. Attach to Unity. Good. Recompile. Hit breakpoint. Or not. I'm okay. Did we hit it? No. Did I just break Unity? That seems to be. I can't move this window at all. It's just. Oh, hold on. What is going on? I'm gonna kill that. I think I broke it. And it's back. And now everything works. So if I skip all of that, we get this. I can select that, and then I can select. Those don't seem right. So if I select our transform, what are the public fields we get? Nothing. There are no public fields on our transform. That's interesting. Not entirely expected at all. What? I don't know what's going on. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Component type. I'm thinking those are properties, and that's why we're running into that on the transform. Which means we're going to need something a little bit more complex. So we're going to get our properties, which is going to give us something entirely different, which is not ideal. So we're going to do a property where the property dot is public dot get I don't know how to test if the get is public. Can read? Can write? No idea. Okay, we're gonna ignore properties. Those are gonna be more complicated. So that means transform is probably out. But some other things should work. Or not. That's cool. Let's see, if I select the transform, doesn't work. Light, doesn't work. So the camera works. There's an on pre-cull, on pre-render, and on post-render, but everything else doesn't work. What if I give it a custom script? So if I just give it test script, this is in the editor stuff. Let's pull that out. What are you doing? There we go. So if I pull this out here, let's just add a public thing. So public float. This will just be a test value, and we'll do another one. So this one will be a vector3 test value again. Let's save that, go in here, and then if I add our test script onto this, we should get those. I should be able to come back here, switch over to the main camera, grab our test script, and we get both of those. So I can get these custom values. Adding properties is going to be a little bit harder. I don't know how we're going to do that yet, because I'd like to pull them both together and then have them kind of just merged, but I don't entirely know yet. So we'll have to play with that, or I'll play with that. I haven't figured that out yet. But here we can at least select them. I haven't configured it so you can select them, but I'm going to try to leave it here, just because we've gotten to the point where we're actually able to get down to here, and we just need to expose those properties. Nah, screw it. Let's finish this a little bit. So we've got a selected component, private int, selected field, which will also be -1. So I'm going to take this and move it here. So when we regenerate this field list, we'll also null out that selected field. Then we will plug it in here. So selected field, there we go. And selected field, there we go. So if we've selected a field, if our selected field is greater than or equal to 0, then I want a editor GUI layout dot property field. So this only works with serialized properties, which are going to be things. That was a terrible explanation for that. Shoot. Object field? Sure. I think this is what I want. So, what's the non-deprecated version of this? GUI content label? I was just going to do a field. Larg. I want to display a property editor for whatever type is there. So like I did a vector3 and a float. So if you select a float, you just want that one field for the float. But if you do a vector3, you want 3 fields for the vector. And if you have a complex object with a custom inspector, I want to support those as well. So that was what the object field was supposed to get us. But I don't know what I'm doing here. That probably isn't great. What can we do? Create an instance of our type. Yep, this is getting even worse. Component fields, to array, selected component. Sure. So we have this to array. We are going to select our selected field from here. So we're turning this into an array. We should probably be storing it as an array, but we aren't because I'm bad. And then I'll just plug in the key, which should be our type. That's going to be gross because it's going to create a brand new thing. It's looking for a GUI label content. I'm just going to say that doesn't work. I don't know what it's asking for with this GUI label content or GUI content. I think I can just give it a string. Nope. Okay. It was worth a try. GUI content dot none. Or not. So if I give it an object and a type, it should be able to build it. So let's do that. This gets us our key. Don't need to create it anymore. I'm going to give it a empty object. So object equals a new object. Also bad. Don't do this, but we did it. So ta-da. Why don't you like this? We have 2 different, ooh, that's weird. There's 2 different objects in our scene. We're going to use the system version. So system.object. And it's expecting the other one. So we're going to use the unity.object. There we go. So I'm just creating a empty object. What's going to happen is it's expecting the actual value to be stored in there, but we aren't giving it anything. And then it would actually return that value. But again, we aren't persisting that anyway. So it doesn't particularly matter. So if I select like, let's go back, grab our test script, test value again. It's expecting a camera and a transform. What? 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 Oh. Ha. Ha. We're taking these. Hold on. Wait. No. That's not right. Why is our component fields giving us a camera and a transform? What? Oh, because it's keyed. Okay, never mind. Hold on. Never mind. This is wrong. Screwing up all over the place. We want to take the selected component. This is finding our selected component. We actually want to copy all of this. We can actually take out that select there. But this is getting us a array for our current selected thing. Then we want to find the selected field inside of that and find the type of that. There we go. Now this should find the correct component attached to our object, and then get the field out of that object, and then we should, assuming I did all of this right, which I would doubt at this point, but we should be able to break things. Well, that was anticlimactic. I don't know why it always breaks here. I'm guessing this is not right. So what's happening? We're getting... So this bit is finding the current selected component type. And then we're looking up in the component fields the list of all of the fields for that component type. And then based off of that, we are indexing into a selected field. And then getting the field type. Dot. Is there something else I can use for this? I don't think so. I think I have this right. So there's a field type, a declaring type, and a reflected type, and a get type. Get type is going to get you the type of whatever object it is, which should be like field info or whatever. Field type should, I'm going to say should a lot because I don't actually know, but it's obsolete. What wants us to allow scene objects? False, I think. Because we're doing that. Got rid of the deprecated function? Now what? I assume it still broke. Apparently not. Odd. But cool. Okay. This is still wrong. I'm gonna need to just figure this out. But effectively the goal of this whole project is you do something like this. It takes about, I mean, once we get this down to actually working, I can select these things in a matter of seconds. And then all we have to do is put a button at the bottom and create a automatic poll. It won't affect your Unity at all. And then in the background, it will just listen to what's happening on your stream and then pull that in and automatically set it to whatever the result is from that stream. So you give people two choices or whatever, they figure out which one they like, and then they do that. And theoretically you can add, I don't know, you could add like bounties or something to it if you wanted to. There's a whole bunch of scenarios we could do with this. So you could theoretically allow people to manipulate your game to help kind of fund it, I think. I don't know how Beam's monetization works, but these are some of the ideas that are playing around with in my head. Obviously this needs a lot of work, and I need to read up a little bit more about how this whole thing is working and clean up the code. The code is gross, but it works-ish. We talked a little bit about reflection, which is always a fun topic. And now we just need to make it suck less. So yeah, I think this is a good place to stop, and we'll pick up and do something less crap next time. So hopefully you guys stick around, and if there's anything you guys can think of that you want me to change or improve on, or even something you just want me to make, let me know in the comments, because that's how I get my ideas. That's how I improve. It's how this whole channel kind of evolves and changes over time. So you guys make a big part of that. So I really appreciate every time you guys write something. So that's it for now. So until next time, see you, Internet.